I'm with Simon Catmull, project engineer for RES. Simon, one of the difficulties in building offshore, building wind farms offshore is just the hostile environment. It's obviously wind turbines are wind turbines, but they're kind of going to come under so much more pressure at sea. I mean, what are the best ways of averting wear and tear and servicing turbines?
Well, I mean, I think some of the better ways of going about it are trying to get a good understanding of the environment that we're operating in, and if we're able to characterise the metocean conditions that you're likely to be operating in over the life of the wind farm, then you can start making informed decisions about how you might be mitigating those conditions, whether it's through improved access technologies or like different foundation structures. I mean, there's a whole lot of opportunity there for modifying your approach to operations and maintenance based on like good knowledge of the environment that you're operating in.
The offshore is arguably in its infancy still, really. I mean, and there are a lot of projects out there, but the ones that are planned in the future are just going to be absolutely huge. How do you see the likes of, say, Hornsey or sort of Dogger Bank, those sort of multi-gigawatt projects changing the way that that projects are serviced?
Yes, I can see sort of projects of that size having a massive impact upon the way that we might be carrying out O&M in the future. I mean, you're at a sufficient distance away from the coast that maybe coastal-based operations for your operations and maintenance base aren't going to be plausible anymore, and we are having to look at using offshore bases or alternative vehicles for getting out to the wind farms. And somewhere like Dogger Bank, you're talking about a potential area the size of Norfolk that's going to be covered in wind farms. It's not going to be entirely feasible to use a crew transfer vessel to get from shore and across the entirety of that in a reasonable kind of time frame, because all your daylight working hours are going to be spent on a boat travelling to and from the site and not actually getting on with any work. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole world of challenges to be facing there.
Is it? I mean, is it fair to say that it's the biggest challenge is maybe to actually keep the costs down? It's easy enough to keep people in that environment, staying out in that environment and servicing the turbines constantly, but it's cost of energy is where it comes down to again.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think operational costs is one of the big components of the cost of energy associated with offshore wind. I mean, there's also the front-end costs, the capital expenditure associated with your turbines, your foundations and your cables, and I think there's a lot of potential for getting an enhanced understanding of those sort of front-end items and reducing the costs associated with them, and making just better use of them all in all.
What do you think is the biggest issue looking ahead?
Oh, I mean, there's so many of those. I mean, from my personal perspective, it's definitely got to be the cables. I think that there's a lot of conservatisms associated with the current design standards for cables, and I mean, while those standards are perfectly legitimate for onshore use, coming into the offshore environment, we're seeing a lot of different challenges that the standards aren't necessarily going to be able to cope with. So I think improving upon that is definitely going to help us make better use of our cables. But I mean, that's just my personal perspective.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.